Do you feel like you have perspective in life, or today's guest has found just that?
I actually remember I sat down in my in a chair to have my hair cut in the hairdressers, and I just looked in the mirror and thought, like, I've completely lost myself.
Really?
And I don't even mean just physically, that's just the outer bit. It's like inward, I was like, I have lost myself completely. And I was like, this needs to change.
18 months ago, he was 20 stone. 1 year ago, he'd never even ran outdoors.
You don't just wake up and you're like suddenly 20 stone and just unhappy and miserable and really depressed. It usually creeps up on you.
Now, TV doctor, Dr. Alex George, is using running to get a healthier body and mind.
Running has been a big part of, yes, the weight loss, but I think generally just health.
Yeah.
I think running gives you a high like virtually nothing else does.
This is TRC Meets, where we meet inspirational runners with amazing stories.
Alex, good to meet you again, although we've just realised this.
Yeah, I must apologise. I don't remember. It was about 5 years ago, I guess. So
It's all right. He's got a very forgettable face.
I've got rouger every day.
Like I was saying, my issue is, unfortunately, I can't place people. And then as soon as I remember something, I remember everything about them. But then if it makes you feel better, it's taken me like 2 years to learn my new mobile number. So
really?
Like, unfortunately, my memory with certain things isn't very good. So don't take it personally.
I won't. So 5 years ago, I was doing an interview with Alex about how to stay safe when you're on a holiday for the first time as an 18-year-old away from your parents. And Alex was giving me...
was it any good, the advice?
To be honest with you, it was forgettable, so it must have been good.
That's probably true, actually. There's nothing bad, or bad advice wasn't given.
I vaguely remember there was a certain amount of sexual health about it. Anyway, this is the Running Channel podcast. Thank you for joining us. We go straight in. So 18 months ago, you were 20 stone. Mm-hmm. You couldn't run 1 kilometre. Mm-hmm. What turned it around?
Yeah, gosh, that is straight in. Yeah, I was well over kind of 20 stone. Health was probably the worst it's been forever, I think. And I think a lot of stuff plays into that. I wasn't exercising, but I think deeply, a lot of this stuff is around like coping mechanisms and what's going on in your life. And I think probably accumulation of the stuff that's happened over the last 6 or 7 years, all the way from probably, becoming famous or known or whatever you want to call it, to, the pandemic, to, I lost my brother, very suddenly, and all the things that have happened, and even just the pressures, like taking on this role, trying to fight and bring change in the mental health space. It's really stressful a lot of the time. And so I think probably all of that stuff built up, and I turned to the wrong things. I was drinking quite a lot of alcohol, not to a point I think where people, I've never suffered addiction. And actually, as we're recording this, I'm pretty much 500 days alcohol free, which I'm pretty pleased with. I didn't suffer with addiction, but I was using it to probably dampen down a lot of the grief or stress. I also was probably using it to manage ADHD, which I have. Alcohol actually really does a good job in a lot of ways of nullifying and medicating ADHD. And when I say a good job, it gives you a sense of relief. But actually, the irony is actually makes most of the ADHD symptoms worse and removes a lot of the good things about it. But effectively, I was using the wrong coping mechanisms, and I just became very lost. And a lot of the time, you don't just wake up and you're like suddenly 20 stone and just unhappy and miserable and really depressed. It usually creeps up on you. And I think there was just one day where I just kind of sat down. I actually remember I sat down in my in a chair to have my hair cut in the hairdressers, and I just looked in the mirror and thought, like, I've completely lost myself.
Really?
And I don't even mean just physically. That's just the outer bit. It's like inward. I was like, I have lost myself completely, and I was like, this needs to change. So I decided, first of all, I'd just start walking. And that's where my podcast, the Stompcast, started, because I just literally was like, I just need to walk and be outside and just try and get some healing with nature. I had my dog Rolo at the time, was a young pup, and we started walking. And then, as time went on, it was like a domino effect. I had people on my podcast who definitely had a big impact, both in being diagnosed with ADHD, but a realization of the damaging effects of alcohol. And as time went on, and the domino and the snowball effect, maybe just a better way of putting it, the snowball effect kind of built and built, I started finding things that I loved again. And that's where running started for me. And running has been a big part of, yes, the weight loss, but I think generally just health.
Yeah.
I think running gives you a high like virtually nothing else does. Like, I love weightlifting. I always traditionally used to lift weights, but running gives you a sense of elation that I don't think anything else can match.
I suppose if you're listening to this in the US, you're going, what on earth is a stone? 20 stone is like, it's 280 pounds, isn't it? So what's that, about 100?
Yeah, it's about 130
kg.
kg. It's 2.2 pounds to a kilo, isn't it? So,
What's your kind of fighting weight?
Or was it about 125 kilos? I think about I'm about 80 right now. I've actually, funny enough, I've unintentionally lost about 10 to 14 kgs in the last 3 weeks. I've been unwell. I had tonsillitis and then had food poisoning. So we'll come on to that in a bit. But I'm not on a great run of it. But
you've had a run, haven't you? Sarah and I were looking at your last few weeks. I mean, you ate some dodgy soup. And then you ended up in your own.
When I started off having I had tonsillitis, which usually you think, oh, that's fine, tonsillitis. Like I've had it many times in the past, get on with it. But I had I developed quinsy, which is like an abscess basically, which is just really rough. I ended up being admitted to hospital, being treated. I went home, was discharged, and then ended up having to go back again. So like 2 trips, 2 admissions to the hospital. So it basically meant the last 3 weeks I've just not really eaten. So we'll get on to that, but it's been not great prep for my Hackney Half Marathon in a month's time. What was I saying? The running. What were we just saying? I was about running and how it makes you feel.
As in, like, your fighting weight.
Oh yeah. So basically, I should be around 90 kilos, and like 90 kilos. So you're talking like 30-ish kilos, 35 kilos more than I guess my healthy and happy weight is. So yeah, it's quite a big weight loss, I guess.
One thing that I think is interesting is that your kind of career is in medicine. You're an A&E doctor, and I think for a lot of people they would look at an A&E doctor and go, oh well, they could never, whatever you want to call it, like let themselves go or put on weight or have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol or do the wrong things. But do you think actually, like, when you were at a time where you weren't running or exercising and before you sat down in that hairdresser's chair, is it harder because you have an awareness of like how to do the right things, and did that actually make it easier when you were kind of coming back into a healthy mindset, or do you think it can affect anyone?
I think I stopped working in A&E about 2 years ago, but I think that's probably another thing was adding to stress. And actually, if you look at a doctor's lifestyle, it's for a lot of doctors it's very long shifts, very stressful job, antisocial hours. You often can't get access to good food actually when you work in a hospital. If you're working night shifts and weekends, a lot of the time the cafes are closed. If the cafes are open, they're often offering fast kind of food kind of things. So it's not really conducive a lot of the time with developing good habits. I mean, if you're working shifts all the time, especially when I used to work in A&E, sometimes I'd work 3 weekends in a row. How can you really get into a rhythm with exercise? Not very easy. Yeah. Doable, but you have to be really disciplined. So I don't think the connection between knowing what's best for you and what you actually in practice are doing with your life is always connected, because life's very complex. We're human beings and things get in the way, and often it's very hard to realise what we prioritise. Like, for example, my priority a couple of years ago was like my work was the top, my family, my friends, and then somewhere down the bottom, my health was there. Now the health, my own health is the most important thing to me above everything. People go, oh, that sounds very sad. What about your family? But if your health fails, you fail at everything else. Yeah. If you have good health, if you feel good in yourself, you're able to be the best version of yourself for everyone else. I'm a better friend, family member, better mental health advocate, better person when I'm emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically well than when I am not looking after myself. So I really now, like, if things have to start being knocked off the diary, the things that don't get knocked off are things like my therapy and my exercise. And that's what I found very difficult actually in the last 3 weeks, having a period of illness. And fine, we're not talking life-threatening illness. It's not been very nice. But it's not life-threatening. But what it has done is it knocked off, my diet, my movement. I'm not able to run for a couple of weeks.
And how do you?
And that affects you a lot.
How do you cope with that, like, disruption to routine? Because do
very
you find
difficult, very badly.
Yeah. Do you find like
badly.
I would be the same? Like I've trained for marathons and I love that because it's so like. I know I'm running X amount of times a week. I plan out the week. If you look at my calendar, it is like ridiculous because all of the runs are color coded and all of the other stuff is color coded and I know how it goes. If I can't do a run or if I get injured or if I'm ill and something disrupts to that, I am instantly like, well, I haven't thought this through. I haven't thought out the plan. So when you do have a period where you're not able to do those things that you've put in place, how do you cope with that?
You're getting an insight into Sarah's head here, Alex. Like how complicated everything is.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the felt tip pens on her desk?
No, I've had to go digital now. I don't have time for the felt tip pens.
Yeah, I think, I empathise with it a lot. I think it's something that I find very difficult. And, even for me, like every single morning, I get up, I'm out the door at 7:30 for a walk with Rolo. The last 3 weeks, obviously, I haven't been able to do that. And yeah, there's a physical aspects of movement, but there's also there's that grounding that it gives me each day. And so when you take away those anchors, those kind of support structures, you can easily fall. And, as I have ADHD, and I think a lot of people think that people with ADHD want kind of chaotic lives around them, but actually, I should speak for myself, but I think a lot of people would agree that actually the routine is actually really important when you have ADHD. Like you yourself can be quite chaotic, as I am. Like I've got a very creative mind, but and I also will just go for stuff, and my life is like go. But I like the structure to be there. I like to do the similar things each day. I know the foods I like. I know the places I like to go. I know what makes me feel comfortable. I like my home environment to be tidy and that kind of stuff. So when you create chaos in my life around that, I find that very difficult. And I think it has been tough, even like mentally. I've been looking forward to doing the Hackney Half. It's my first half in a decade. To be honest, I was pretty damn fit. Like a month ago, I was pretty damn fit. I've been training for like nearly 2 years between doing kind of weightlifting and everything, building up the running. I'd say, I was trying to go for a 5-kilometer pace for the half. That was kind of the rough time, which is for someone that's not done a half for a long time, I think that's quite reasonable. But now the knockback is like, well, I don't even know what I can run now. It's been 3 weeks. I've lost like a stone. I don't know whether I'll be able to be anywhere near that. And it's a difficult point because you're only a month away. You're kind of entering a point where you're almost going to start tapering soon, right?
You know what, Alex, you might surprise yourself. So, Sarah, I've waited 11 minutes to mention it. I had a big injury a couple of years ago.
Every podcast.
Yeah, and I had a bit of a knock about 6 weeks ago, and I haven't done any races or any even a park run until last Saturday, because I just thought I just want to make sure that I'm back at it, and I just wanted to get through without any pain. And I did a park run, and I got through 5K without any pain. And actually, I was only about a minute off my PB. I didn't push myself because I had an aim to get round. So you might surprise yourself because you've built in that stabilization because of all your S&C and all your training. You've probably got a base fitness there that you might surprise yourself when you.
I'm also stone lighter as well. It's easy to carry around the half.
Yeah.
So less stuff to carry around, right?
Or 14 pounds or 2.2 kilograms.
Yeah, exactly. I could carry less around. But the important thing is not to be negative about it. You've got to accept that, because I guess, this half marathon is it's just a milestone in like your life of the bigger picture, and actually you're going to have knockbacks in your life in general health regardless of fitness, and it's about kind of how you pick yourself up and move forward. I think that I've learned, and that's what I've been thinking about the last few days, because I was feeling quite frustrated a few days ago. I was thinking, well, at the end of the day, this is part of life, and it's like when you go, and in some ways also it's kind of like, some days you turn up the gym and you feel really energized, you want to train. Another day, you can give 100%. Other days you can give 2%. But it's the showing up that really matters. And like even if I just, pad around the half marathon, I've still shown up and done it, and that's better than not doing it. So, I'm being positive in that sense. And you learn from it. And you are right. And of course, I've built a resilience and a general fitness. It's not the optimum run into a half, but I'm pretty fit anyway. I'll be fine.
Also, it's real. Like, I don't think there is a kind of perfect run up, or I would love to meet someone who has had it, who hasn't had like a missed session or a few weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
What was it that made you pick running back up again? You say that this is the first half in a decade.
Yeah, well, the way I got back into exercise, I started walking, and walking was my first thing. So that's why I started the Stompcast, and as I started enjoying that, I kind of just became more interested in exercise, and I was like, I used to love lifting weights, so I thought, well, let's go back and do weights. I went to the gym, I was doing kind of free weights and stuff, and I thought it would be quite nice to do something kind of bit of HIIT working out. And I heard of a class called Barry's, which a lot of people go to, and it's kind of a mixture of treadmill and weights. When I first went, I used to just do double floor, so you just do the weights, because I was self-conscious about running, especially at my size.
Double floor.
Yeah, so you just do like the circuits twice round with the weights and stuff, which is actually quite tough. But I felt more comfortable with that. And then eventually I was like, come on, let's try and do the treadmill. And the weight's coming off now. So the weight's coming off. I was probably about 18 stone or something when I first stepped on the treadmill. I thought, come on, let's do this. And I was really slow. I really struggled to do the session. I felt self-conscious, but I did feel like so good for doing it. I felt a bit of that runner's high doing it. And over time, I just started getting more confident, and I was doing the floor and the treadmill, and then eventually I was like, why don't I run outside? But that was always a big confidence thing for me, especially when you're bigger. You can feel quite self-conscious around it, which I look back now and think, you know what, no one's judging you, and if they are, that's their issue. And then I did my first run outside. I don't know how long it was ago now, whether it's about a year or something like that, and I loved it. I just felt that kind of amazing sense of achievement and feeling of just that endorphin, that clarity, and I was like, this is amazing. And I've never been a runner really. I've played a lot of sports, I've played rugby and all this kind of thing, but I never really understood why people ran.
Really? So a year ago was the first time you ran?
Proper, to go and actually, to go and run for running's sake. Yeah.
Oh, you're a proper freshman.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I love it, and I think I think it's been really nice to find something as well in your early 30s that you can kind of get into and enjoy, and largely it's free, isn't it? I mean, you need a decent pair of trainers. I think it's always worth having a good pair of trainers, but largely it's free to go outside and run, and that's quite a nice thing as well.
I think it's less restrictive than loads of other things as well, like classes or like weightlifting. It's kind of you're on the opening times or you're on the class times, whereas like running really you're kind of on your own schedule as well, so you just get out the door and go do it. So then when you had got out and kind of loved the feeling of running, did you then immediately go, okay, I want to train for something now, and was speed on your mind or were races on your mind?
At first it was just trying to be able to do a 5k. I mean, I still, even when I'd come out of when I started training outdoors, I would struggle to do a full 5k because Barry's training is very interval and doing sprints and stuff like that. So it's different kind of training, and I really found it my pacing was completely wrong. I was trying to go too fast.
Did you do the classic thing? So I had a friend who went to the gym, and every single time he came back from the gym and he was like, I did a run. And I was like, how far did you run? And he was like, well, I just go till the treadmill says 1. And he had no idea what that meant.
What 1 was?
Still to this day, I don't know whether that was 1 kilometre or 1 mile. And then he would go out and I was like, try and run outside. And he was like, I just can't get to 5k. And I was looking at his pacing, and he probably would have been able to run a 30-minute 5k, and he was setting off at 20-minute 5k pace. And I was like, try dialing it back a little bit.
For a good while, you'd look at my Strava and you'd be like, Christ, he's going quick at the thing. But then what would happen, I'd go really fast and then I'd burn out for a kilometre, and then I'd pick up a second wind and push again.
Really?
So I found the pacing to be really important. And it is interesting when you run, you do the 3 kind of runs that I generally do is the kind of tempo ones. So run fast for a K, 90 seconds fast for a K. Then I do the kind of easy runs just around something like 6 or 7k, and then long distance at slower kind of pace. But I found that using those three kind of different kinds of runs, when I've gone then to do a fast 5k, the difference has been huge. Your capacity, but even then, what I've tried to do now, and I do a fast 5k rather than just running fast, I try and pick a speed and stick to it, because the temptation is to I'm going to do a fast 5k, and you're just trying to run 4-minute kilometers at the start or whatever. Whereas I'm like, right, let's do a 4:40 or something and stick at that and try and hold that speed.
Do you go out first thing? Are you a morning runner or afternoon?
I usually run at the weekend, so I try and go out in the morning. But it kind of depends on my diary. We're all busy, aren't we? So trying to fit it in. And the one challenge I have found is fitting in with weights, because I do really like my weight training. It takes a long time to build kind of muscle, mass and stuff like that. And I've built a lot of strength.
I'm so bad at it. Sorry.
What's that?
That's like an alien concept to me. I hate the gym, but I love running.
You don't like weightlifting?
No, she just hates the gym.
I don't think I've
She hates the door, the frame of walking in.
This year though, so far I'm on a perfect streak with my New Year's resolution was I need to do something that is strength related once a week.
You're getting better.
And so far I've kept it up. But the first couple of weeks I was doing body weight strength stuff.
I think you'd love it if you got
Pilates.
into the gym. You'd actually you'd love it. I mean, I like it because it does complement running and running.
Yeah, exactly.
It does complement each other, your capacity and stuff like that for exercise.
I know it's good.
Great.
It's just
and this was quite nice. The thing that I've really enjoyed, the hybrid concept of being a hybrid athlete, whatever.
Yeah.
Not something athlete, but a hybrid person, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Is like it is nice just being knowing that you can lift relatively heavy things, you can run relatively far. You're kind of a bit of an all round. I kind of get why people like Ironman training kind of thing, because you feel like you can do a bit of everything. Like I feel physically strong. And then I guess the benefits for running as well. Like if you're lifting weights, your core's strong, your back, your legs are strong. Like your risk of injury, a lot of injuries are more likely if you don't have skeletal strength and stuff, isn't it?
It feels like you deal with stuff quite well, Alex. You might not think that you do, but it looks like you take the knocks and just kind of roll with them. Is that fair?
I think, I don't know. I think when you go through very difficult things, perspective is a useful thing. Like I think everyone's had their story, and you'll have your own lives and things that have happened. But yeah, I think it's fair to say I've had some pretty shitty things happen in my life, and I've seen very shitty things actually. Like even working in A&E outside of the pandemic, I've seen some really bad stuff, and I think that puts things in perspective. And I do think gratitude and perspective are two things that are very, very useful, because everyone's got troubles. People listening to this, people watching this, you've all got your troubles. I have no doubt about it. And it's not about removing validation. And like when bad things happen, they are just crap. Like when I was lying in the hospital bed and I can't swallow and I'm fevering and I'm feeling rubbish and I can't do things I want to do, it's annoying. You're allowed to be annoyed, but it's also useful then to reground yourself and go, but on the bigger picture, I've got family, I've got friends, my general health's going to be okay. You know, we can move past this, you know, and I think that has been very helpful. And yeah, if you've been, you know, one of the biggest challenges for young people, and the reason we worry about young people's mental health so much, is that often young people don't have that perspective yet. Like if you've overcome challenges, failures, losses, bad things, you learn that you can get through it. Yeah. It's like when you've gone through a period, when I first went through a bout of bad depression, it's horrendous because you think, A, it's only you that's experiencing it and you don't even know if you can get through it. But once you've got through it, you know that you can get through it. So if it comes back again, you know that you will get through it. And I think, you know, that is a very important thing. And I think that has taught me a lot. And yeah, in short, I mean, actually one of the best things about exercise actually and running is that you're doing something difficult. And therefore when you do difficult, it's clearing your mind. It's clearing your mind. But when you do something hard, you know you can do hard things. Like it's difficult when you're panting away trying to beat your 5K time. You're going to
it's
collapse
miserable
and die.
Type 2 fun.
You're like, this is just chaos, right?
Yeah.
And but when you've done it, you go, I can do hard things. Like I can do difficult things. And when you go into work that day, you're like, I've just run a 5K and bust my guts. I can deal with this email. Right? Yeah. So I think that is, there's a bit of a catch, it's a bit of a chicken or the egg, but exercise gives me confidence to deal with things. But yeah, dealing with difficult things helps you deal with stuff with an exercise. It's a bit of everything.
I'm going to ask you a question then. So I have a super similar mindset, and I know a lot of runners have a super similar mindset where they love it because it challenges them. So on your running bucket list, are we going to start seeing things like ultra marathons and the proper go to hell and back runs?
Well, I'm going to do the London hopefully next year. I'd hope I'm going to do the London, and the London's very important to me because I lost a very, very good friend of mine at university called Freya Barlow, and it'll be 10 years, I think it will be this year coming, that she passed away to leukemia. And when she was undergoing treatment, we thought she was going to get into remission. And we said, look, when you're better, we'll run the London together. And then when we found out that she wasn't going to make it, she asked me a few days before she passed away, please run the London for me one day. I said, I'll do it. Yeah. So it's always been on my list. Amazing. So I get very emotional around the whole London Marathon.
There's so much heart in London Marathon.
There is for a lot of people.
Go to London Marathon, go and watch it for a day. And if you've got a black heart, it'll turn red.
Yeah, even if you're watching it on TV as well.
It's very
it
emotional.
Just shouts through the screen.
It's unbelievable. So I'm going to do the London. I think part of it, my friend's done an Ironman. He's going to do another one. I don't
got like
know.
A smirk on your face.
That's like, I'm going to do it.
No, you're right.
I might do something. I want to do them. I want to see what a marathon feels like, and just see how I feel in general. But I wouldn't be surprised if I do stupid things like side to side. I'm one of those people that I've got enough going on in my life. I don't need to do something else, but I will just because I'm so
How would you fit
annoying.
that type of training in for a marathon? If we're a year out from London, how would you fit that in? Do you have time to fit it in?
I think there's always time. If you go on your phone and look at your screen time, I'll guarantee it's between 2 and 4 hours. There's always time.
That's,
When people talk
Mine's
about
definitely
when
higher
people
than
when people talk,
point.
and I mean this, and I'm
Yeah.
brutally honest.
No.
When people talk about, I don't have time for half an hour self-care, I don't have time to meditate.
You do.
Go on your phone, look at your screen time.
the
No
nonsense.
judgment. I'm just
Yeah,
you look
yeah,
at
yeah.
it
Yeah.
and look at it honestly and see what your average daily screen time is, and then
No,
see
you're
if
right.
you have time.
That's why I started phone-free Sundays.
Great
So,
idea. Amazing.
Sundays,
Oh,
phone-free
that's a
Sundays.
good
Now,
shout.
the phone stays by the front door.
That's
so if
amazing.
we go out,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll take the phone with us, but we're not to be on it, but it stays by the front door. The rest of the day, play with the baby, play with the kids, it stays by the front door. If it
you know what-
rings, I'll pick it up because I can hear it ring, but I'm not going to check anything.
Do you know that's killed me a little bit in the last 3 weeks? I spent so much time on my phone. My screen time, because I've felt
you've been
I
sick,
can't do
though.
anything.
You've
I know,
been-
but I've just been on my phone, and I think it has negatively affected my mood.
Phones are
Do you know-
awful.
but do you know what's
I think
worse,
I think we're
though?
beginning to realise how awful phones are for our
It's
heads.
also though it's not just singular screens. Like this is what I have a conscious awareness of. Like I am so guilty of doom scrolling, but also I find myself like we were talking to Andy who we do the podcast with, and he's like there are two types of people in the world. You can, if you're home alone, you either have something on in the background or you don't. And I think like that I am so guilty of that. Like if I'm by myself, I'll have the radio on or I'll have something on. But then if I tried to watch a film at the weekend, and instantly, as soon as the film started, I picked up my phone.
I know.
Unless
Gotta leave it outside the room.
But I watched like 2 films back to back. The first one I'd watched 10 times. So you can go on your phone because you can constantly switch. And I go, oh, I know what happens in this bit in The Devil Wears Prada. Then I watched a new film, couldn't tell you what happened because I was already like
Gotta
switching
leave
into
it outside.
something else.
I'm just so worried now, having like young kids, a baby and a toddler, that I never want them to ever see me on my phone. So when they come up to me, they go, "Daddy," I never want to be looking down. I want to be. I've caught the moment beforehand that I've come in, so they don't ever associate me with a phone.
Yeah, that's a
That's
really
true.
powerful point. Yeah, I guess I think for one thing I've learned in terms of managing that screen stuff is, and I look into a lot of the kind of research around phones and mental health for obvious reasons of my role and what I do, and the research. What there is no doubt about is that screen time and mental health symptoms are like linked. Like if you follow, the hours spent on the phone, you'll see a sharp uptick after kind of 2 hours in terms of anxiety, pessimism, sadness, symptoms of depression and anxiety all shoot up. So,
Wow.
if you can
Yeah.
really use my biggest tip around it is like have a screen time limit. Like I have it on my phone, have it set. And yes, a lot often I'll be like, yeah, click it, override it, whatever.
Yeah.
But at least you are really
You've got
being
the limit, you're
conscious
conscious
about
of it.
Yeah.
And I think really like that's the big thing is just try and keep that screen time down, like just really kind of control that. And the big hours of the day is the first hour and last hour of your day is when your brain is at its most vulnerable. When you wake up, your brain and your mood is in its most vulnerable state. Because your brain is settling into the day, you're psychologically, you're more at risk of having your mood dictated at that point. So that's why
Interesting.
avoid news apps, avoid socials and emails if you can for the first hour. Do your morning routine, get yourself psychologically strong.
Yeah.
Then look at things. And before bed, if you kind of look at stuff that's negative, like the news or you're on your phones, that can really impact your sleep. It's not just
sleep.
getting to
It's
sleep,
everything.
but what's happening during sleep. So if you're going to
Yeah.
protect the time and bookend your day, first hour, last hour, be, like that's when you want to get the phone off, you want to get the TV screens off, do the reading, and it does make a difference.
Which
It
is
does
so
make a difference.
interesting as well when you think about like running training, because I'm sure for a lot of people, like if they've trained hard for something and then you do start to taper off before race day, you suddenly have so much time because you're not going out on those big long runs or you're not doing stuff. And I, for one, am definitely guilty of swapping that time for phone time. I'm like, great, Sunday, I don't need to be out for 3 hours. Perfect. I'll just sit on my phone. Or like, oh, great, I don't need to wake up early and go for a run. Excellent. I will sit on my phone and have breakfast. But actually, like when you think of wanting to be in the best possible mindset for a run or a race, you need to supplement that for something that is positive, that's going to set you up to go into that feeling like mentally strong and ready to do it. So what would your tips be when you kind of taper off for any races? What will you be spending that time doing?
Yeah, well, I think first one's I think that screen time stuff's useful, and I think try and swap in something. So if you're going to do less running, what else that you could do? Could you go and do like yoga or stretching?
Yeah.
Could you go and do go for long walks or whatever instead? There's no reason you can't walk instead. So I think it's swapping it out, right? It's kind of like another example of it actually is when people look to reduce alcohol intake or not drink so much, or they want to maybe go alcohol free like I am, if you just take away, and January is a really good example, if you just take something away and don't replace it, you can end up miserable. That's why a lot of people find dry January very hard. It's because they go, right, I'm going to sit inside, I'm not going to do anything, I'll save money. Yeah, I'm not going to drink any alcohol. Yeah, because they
think going out and drinking are mutually exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, that's miserable. When I stopped drinking, I went out almost every night, deliberately, to go and meet people or do things, because I wanted to prove to myself that the two things were not linked. And very quickly I was like, this is actually too much. I hate going out and socialising every night. But what I broke the kind of this kind of link was that actually that not drinking meant staying in, being boring. That isn't true at all. It's like the idea with not drinking means you're not social. I can socialise if I wanted to, Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. I can do it the whole time because I don't get hungover. I don't get, my sleep is good and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I think it's really useful thing to do is just to make sure if you're removing something that's fun or something that's an activity, put something else instead. That will really help you, in that run in and make you not just feel like I'm just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, the alternative is not just nothing.
It's basically the stuff that you've been looking at of other people doing on the phone. Go and do that yourself.
It's like
so what if it's running? What if you're watching people running?
Yeah. Go running.
Even if you're tapering for a race and stuff. So I need to get your advice then. I need your advice then. So what's my best, like now I'm going to try and run. So I did weights last night because I was like, I need to just go to the gym. I'm going to do some weights tonight because of timing and stuff. I'm going to run tomorrow. So what should I do now? 4 weeks. I've got basically 4 weeks until my Hackney half. What should I do?
So you've still got, with a half marathon, you don't need to taper as much as for a marathon. So I would say like with 4 weeks to go, you've had 3 weeks out. So don't do I'm just going to jump straight back into the training plan. Maybe don't do the full 16K. Go for, I'm guessing you're going to do like maybe 5 or 6K tomorrow.
Yeah.
Go for that, see how that feels. And then maybe spend the next couple of weeks like building up a little bit. And then maybe like 7 to 10 days before the race, then start to taper back down. But you've got it. I feel like your mindset will get you around.
What is the shame is that actually before I was unwell, I was at half marathon. Like I was doing like 16Ks and like I could comfortably do it. So I was ready. It was a lovely run into it because I was like, right now I'm just building up like how fast I can do it. Do you know what I mean? Because I knew I could do it. I didn't want to do. Sometimes people sign up to a half or a marathon with like not that long, and they're trying to like train and like how long can I leave it? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to kind of be really comfortable well ahead of time. That's what I wanted.
I don't think your legs will have forgotten that like hard work though at all.
Quick question on the half. So how many days before a half itself should you just completely stop? As in do nothing?
As in completely stop running?
Yeah.
Well, it depends when you want to do your kind of like last little shakeout. So a lot of people, I think for like Hackney weekend, they've got a 5K the day before. Definitely don't go race that if you're doing that one. Because I know so many people who like bash out a 5K PB. And then especially because it's a hot time of year as well. But if you want to do like a little shakeout the day before, you can. If you want to leave it a couple of days, that's also fine. But I think just like keeping moving is good as well. Like you don't want to step up to the start line with stiff legs because you've just sat down all week the week before.
And Alex, good luck for London 2025.
Yeah,
hopefully I can do it. But
let us know how that gets on. How you get on with that?
Yeah, it'd be nice. I think it'd be a lovely thing to do, and we'll see. Maybe that'll be the start of marathons. A lot of people seem to prefer doing halves, maybe because they're more, they feel more achievable. They're not such the distance. Obviously, the difference between a half and a marathon is obviously double. But perhaps the difference in terms of the not commitment, but the toll
I think the training,
it's different, isn't it? Maybe
a marathon does take over your life, but I feel like it could be something where you do one and you're like, okay, this is my thing.
Yeah, maybe.
So what did you prefer? Me talking to you about STIs in 2019, or talking to me and Sarah about running?
I think the running. It's just, and do you know what's lovely about the running? And obviously, you've been doing this for a good number of years, and the podcast for a year and a half or whatever it's been. It's just such a nice community, isn't it? Running. It's actually the best thing aside from the physical mood and the feeling and stuff that running. The community is really nice, isn't it? It feels like a really positive. Everyone's
run clubs are amazing.
Yeah,
I've had my mind opened up by run clubs in the last few months.
Yeah, have you gone? What run clubs have you?
Sarah and I've been going around the country, meeting new people at different run clubs.
Which is your favourite run club? There you go.
Oh, that's a good. You went to Dublin, didn't you?
Question.
You did a really good one in Dublin.
Yeah, Dublin runners. So it's not one specific run club. It was like 4 different run clubs, and we did a 5K around Dublin, and it was literally a party.
Wow.
And also, I quite liked they do runs it's like a social run on a Saturday, and they were saying like you can have gone out the night before and have got in at 4 a.m. and then rock up and just try and get through the 5k, or you can be training for a marathon, bash out a whole session and do the 5k as your cool down. Either's fine. We'll
That's
just
the
get
social
through it.
element to it that I just don't think was here even a year, 2 years ago. That social element to it, the party atmosphere to it, the meeting
Just
different
having
people.
fun,
That is all. It feels new and it feels bigger.
Yeah. Where's your favourite place you've ever gone for, like ran or gone for a run, city or place?
That is such a good question. I like the fact he started asking us questions.
Oh, I'm going to say Budapest.
Oh, I've been to
Because
Budapest, beautiful.
they have their own little island for runners.
Wow.
Oh,
So so we went out there last year for the World Champs, and Andy was like, "This is great. It's got an island, and you go over, and some of the hotels were there, so you can see the elites training. But it's literally like a running path round this whole island. It's great.
I didn't make it. I had a few apple juices the night before. Yeah.
So what about yours?
When I was on like a gap year between university and work, I went to Yosemite traveling.
I've loved Yosemite.
And I ran around Yosemite National Park, and it was just felt so free to be able to do it, because every single way you turn is a picture of height. There is height everywhere you look.
It is the most give you perfect running form.
It pulled me up on a string to look up.
It is the most phenomenal landscape I think I've ever seen in Yosemite. It is beautiful. I that's why I was gutted the weekend, because I had the food poisoning. I had planned the run along the Seine. I was going to run I was in Paris for the weekend. That was the point. So I was going to run along the Seine, and I managed to walk for a couple of hours before I got the Eurostar home. And it was sunny and beautiful. It looked lovely. So I'd love to go back and run Seine and enjoy that.
What's your favourite place you've ever run in then?
I think probably because I'm from Carmarthenshire in Wales, but Pembrokeshire is also where I grew up really, and the coastal path there is really beautiful. Anywhere along there in Pembrokeshire is so stunning. I mean, you got all
the way up to Aberystwyth, best place to ever go to university.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, that was who you wanted.
Where did you go to uni?
I went to Plymouth and Exeter as a joint university. Yeah. So but I think probably in Pembrokeshire, just such a beautiful place. You know.
I think that's what's special about running as well, is like you can take it to all of your favourite places. And I think that is a perfect way to finish.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you. I'm going to have a holiday show.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
We now need to go. We'll all go to each other's favourite.
That's an idea.
Yeah, we'll go try it out.
Alex, pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it.